to inspire inclusion and to include women is to openly embrace the diversity and the uniqueness of women, notwithstanding their age, their race, their culture, their ability, their body type, and the list goes on and on. And we are driving this conversation because we understand that in as much as over the years we have seen an improvement in women participating in governance, women participating in organizations, there is still a lot of disparity when we make that comparison with our male counterparts. And there's still a whole lot to be done about that. Now, speaking about inspire inclusion, I have a brilliant panel. A panel of distinguished and very much accomplished women who will be having this conversation with us today, driving in the topic, inspire inclusion, taking a look at it from their unique perspectives and from their expertise as well. Personally, what does this theme mean to you, to inspire inclusion, Titi Lokbe?
First is, thank you for having me again. I'd like to share inspire inclusion from the perspective of what's currently going on around the society and the world at large. And when it comes to social issues, environmental issues, economic issues, women are the most impacted globally. And there are quite a number of statistics that we have to show for it. But more importantly is the fact that we need to create environments where people can give women better chances to have their voices heard, to open the doors for women and leave it open for deserving women, amplify their voices. I mean, we've had the conversation around, give the women a voice, but how do we begin to amplify their voices? How do we leverage their strengths? There are quite a number of things that women do so effortlessly. We call it multitasking.
Yes.
But we do a million things at the same time without losing track of the other. And so how do we amplify the strengths of women to achieve social, environmental, and societal advantage? That is what I think inspire inclusion means.
That's amazing. Amami, I want to hear that from your perspective, please.
Inclusion, as the word implies, it's really just including someone, including people. We find that I just worry that the term diversity and inclusion is so tokenized, is so overused, but there's less action, more words, you know what I mean? And especially with International Women's Day, it's a huge conversation.
Yeah.
Number one, it's not just women.
Yeah.
There's women of color.
Yeah.
There's hijabi women. There is women who are from less privileged communities.
Yeah.
For example, at the Teens panel yesterday at the event, we had 2 girls from less privileged communities because we want to hear all the voices. Every time you cannot have all the voices, you do yourself a disservice because you don't have all the information. So inspiring inclusion is really, it's a benefit. There's nobody that has inclusion that loses. I really want to see more action. I'm tired of the talk.
One thing I'd like to, share with us is in walking the talk, there are certain things that we need to begin to call out, very consciously.
Okay.
Those biases. So, for example, you mentioned earlier the issue of, does she have a woman? Does she have a husband? Does she have a child? We need to start downplaying those things and upscaling the attributes, the good, attitudes that women have.
Okay.
In terms of even the conversations we have around the home, for example, how are we raising our male children? How are we raising even the female child? Are you raising the female child to feel, you are in charge of the entire responsibility in this home, and then the male child, just feels comfortable to play games, to watch soccer and do all the other things? The conversation must start from the home. And when it starts from the home, it has a way of reverberating across the entire society. And we women, across the world, we must hold hands and demonstrate that we are one united force, committed to helping women thrive and achieve inclusion at the highest level.
That is fantastic. And you touched on something that sort of like struck a chord somewhere. We have been talking about women in leadership over the years, especially the appalling engagement of women in leadership positions, be it in the corporate world or be it in actual government. Cynthia, now that you've gotten into the conversation, I just want to hear from you what it means to inspire inclusion.
I think for me personally it starts from self, right? And I'm someone that I'm a very accountable person. You need to be accountable for yourself. You need to be accountable for the outcomes as well. What you don't have, you can't give. So firstly, is having a mindset of I am it. I am that girl. I am the person. Do you understand? There's no gender in how you see yourself. I guess the only, sometimes like I see myself as, alpha male, alpha female, because you have it all. Maybe the only time I see myself like from a gender perspective is when I need help lifting bulky things, and I'm not shy of it. I'm petite, but outside that, you need to be able to like have a mindset that empowers inclusion for yourself, even before anything. So from like how you value yourself, how you see yourself, because if you don't have that internal strength first before putting it out to the world, then that's where like all these conversations, starts from. So imagine if we're all aligned from a mental perspective of, I am that person, and no man, no organization, no society can bring me down. You level up, you levitate. So that's how I see it from a place of, personal belonging and personal development first. So in terms of inspiring inclusion is your voice must be heard. Like if you want something, go after it. It's fine to have, hurdles, around the blocks. That's fine. That's life. That's normal. Like you win some, you lose some. But how you stand back up and how you like continue life. Yeah. So in terms of inspiring inclusion, it's starting from you and that mindset, and also being very being very unapologetic. Society will try to like limit you. People, even friends, even family, like you encounter that. And just being Nigerian and being very African, there are a lot of there are a lot of biases and stereotypes that will try to limit you on this journey of being like inclusive. But you need to call it out, call it out, firm whatever your personality is, and be bold about it. Wow. Because I demand respect. I demand that value. I demand it. And if you can't give it, you step out of my way. Like, we don't have to have the encounter. And from a maybe society work perspective, you need to be able to demand what you want and be vocal about it. And at the end of the day, people that will understand will level up with you, and people that don't see it from that level, because there are a lot of, and it's just so unfortunate that this occurrences still happens. Yeah. And the real deal, like growing up, and I don't know where, primary school, secondary school, charity definitely begins from home. Yes. It definitely begins from home with, when I become a mother by God's grace, is what values do I want to instill in my daughters, in my sons, in everyone around me. Absolutely. Like even now, I'm fortunate to lead a team of internal and external of over 30 to 50 people. Okay. Do you understand? And seeing a young black woman like this, lead that team, you get a lot of there are a lot of confirmations or expectations that they've tagged. Oh, she's young, she looks this way, I can't. And at the end of the day, I'm able to, demand what I want as a leader, and also inspire, right? Because I think for me, it's not just about you inspire from a place of different perspective. Yeah. Right. As a woman and as a girl, as a cancer queen, I inspire, I'm very empathic.
Yeah.
But I'm also very firm because I'm very purpose driven and I like to win at the end of the day.
Wow.
So let's all come to the table and do what we have to do. So it's all about personal accountability at the end of the day. And just being very vocal. Don't be shy, don't be timid. And there are some people that don't really have, even if you are not there yet in terms of, your confidence.
Yeah.
Like build it, go to in front of the mirror, say it out. It starts with, your friend. It starts with your partner. It starts with, your family.
Yeah.
Just be that person and don't allow anybody walk over you.
We all have a story, and everybody likes to listen to a story. So telling your story to different audiences at different times is one of the ways to make your voice heard. In your stories, you would find some of your values, some of the challenges that you've overcome, some of the hurdles you've had to cross, and maybe some of the learnings that you picked, along through your journey in life. So first is to tell your story. Second is to continue to stay consistent. And when I say stay consistent, I really mean, you are not cold today and warm tomorrow. You are not hot today and the day after tomorrow you are cold. Every single day at every time, they know this is who Ife is. And they are able to deal with you, with their understanding of your person. I believe that consistency particularly plays a very strong role. Because over time, you know her, she will not agree. You know her, she will not take that. You know her, she will. And people begin to understand you. And by that, you even have a sense of some of the conversations that happen when you're not in the room. So it's a different thing when they are saying things before you. Yeah. But when you are not in the room and they are saying, oh, she's very efficient, she's diligent, she's good at what she does, she has empathy, those things give credence to the things they say before you. Right. So I believe that the things that they even say when you're not in the room is actually more impactful and it's the true story. Absolutely. Compared to the things that they say before you. And so in amplifying your voice, tell your story, stay consistent, true to your values, true to self. Because again, when you are living to be who you are not, then that consistency gap would definitely show. Wow. And then finally, ensure that, people understand you for who you are. Sometimes people may misunderstand, they may cross the line. Yeah. You have a responsibility to call their attention to it and let them know that this is who I am, this is what I want, these are my expectations, and this is the only way that we can do things or work together.
Wow, that is so brilliant. That is so brilliant. And when we also look at the history of, such of like a timidity within women, where even when they are in organizations where they play similar roles as men, they're not as audacious and they're not as bold. There's several factors that we could point out that could have been the reason for that. It could be the upbringing, how they were being taught in the home, the way the boy is being told to be bold, maybe what the parents are telling the girl sort of like makes her feel like she has to withhold or withdraw herself all the time, be quiet, be calm. And sort of like this translates into the mentality of maybe I shouldn't be as loud as that. Maybe I should not be as audacious as that. Maybe that's a man thing or a guy thing, right? And so we see that this could be some of the reasons. Now,
and you are there, the first thing as a woman, you're in a meeting, please do not be quiet. Know what it is that they're saying about the meeting, and for the first 5 minutes, chip in something. Don't be waiting. Don't wait for them to give you a chance. I'm not saying struggle or fight. No. Please. Knowledge also, back to this confidence thing. Knowledge breeds confidence. Whatever industry you've chosen to be, first of all, know all that you can know about it. Right? And I find women, we wait to have all the things in the world before we start speaking. In my work as a PR person, even some of these top women you're seeing, CEO of this, head of this, they'll be like, mommy, I feel like you're exaggerating. But this is you made all this, you achieved all of this, and we're so scared. We'll wait to have 150% of the requirement before we apply for the job. Okay, so don't train yourself. Most people are not born with it. For me, I'm this way because of how I was raised. my parents were my household. It was when I left, I got into university, I was saying that it's not always like this.
Yes.
So I didn't know many of these things,
Cynthia, there's statistics that actually says that about 70% of African women have been excluded in terms of finances, meaning, access to finances. And it also does say that if there aren't, strategic actions to address this, it might take us up to 140 years to close that disparity.
We need more women-led, women-focused business networks. I think that is one area that men, let's catch a drink at 5. They go to the bar, they watch soccer together, and they are sealing deals.
Wow.
The best deals are not sealed in the office or on the office table. They are sealed at clubs, at social gatherings, and you would see, those things really happen. So we need more women-led, women-focused business networks. I believe that will play a very significant role in helping to close this funding gap and even giving women access to the kinds of fund that can help them scale their businesses. The second is we need to rethink a lot of things. Collaboration rather than competition.
Wow, I love that.
Collaboration rather than competition. So if I have this information and I'm sharing it with Omawumi and I'm sharing it with Cynthia, am I trusting them enough to know that, they would give me a fair, balanced perspective of things that I can do to increase my chances? Or, tell me, it's not worth it. And then at the end of the day, you find someone who has gone to take up that opportunity. I mean, there was a story on social media yesterday making the rounds around some lady who had an accident, and her best friend, I don't know who saw that story, and her best friend thought she was dead and actually organized a wake for her and ended up marrying her fiancé. It was quite on a lot of social media blogs yesterday.
Nigeria here.
Yes, so we need to begin to change our orientation. Collaboration, not competition. Sometimes I have an opportunity or I have access to this knowledge. Let me share it with someone with the same values, with like minds, and let's even see how we can work together. They say 2 good heads are better than one. So instead of, hoarding this information, not wanting to share it, why not share with someone you have some level of trust with and come together, partner together to be able to, give that opportunity. So those 2 things are critical.
Wow.
Yes, business networks for women and collaboration.
Absolutely profound point. So competition or collaboration, not competition. You had mentioned something earlier saying that inclusion also involves underserved women. It's not just women. So you can break it down to women of color, right? Women that wear hijabs.
Yes.
Women from underserved society as well. So even us speaking about funding and finances, a lot of times we do see that access to even those finances would require a certain level of knowledge, know-how, skill. Already the underserved women never really had access to quality education, So there is also they are already limited in that area. So yes, there are funds out there. Now, who qualifies for the funds? Possibility that the people that are more likely to gain the funds are people from either the middle class or the higher echelon because they have been able to gain, that level of knowledge, know-how, skill, and all that because they had that opportunity. So how then do we balance that out, right? What happens to those women? In conversations regarding inclusion, how do we include women from the underserved society?
I think it definitely starts from a personal level, building it up to the very top. And I know you made a very interesting point in terms of women are not, we're not, striving against ourselves or just being our own enemy. And I totally agree in terms of the narrative of women not supporting women because there's a scarcity. I want to push myself forward, and guys also do that too. Guys also cock the block and whatnot, but at the end of the day I don't think it's a man thing. It's a personal thing. It's your mindset. If you have the mindset of just being evil or being a devil, it's not because you're a woman. Is anyone, the devil can use anyone. It's not because, oh, she's a woman. Let's dead that narrative and dead that story. So, and that's why sometimes with these conversations, I don't like to put gender to it. It's a thing of like, everyone has that chance and that opportunity to do something. Anyone can do and undo. It's not because you're a woman that you big the O. And I feel like with subjects like this, and because we are really attractive beings, we are very, we have like a light upon ourselves. Yeah. Anything that has to do with like a woman is better topic. It's much more, it's much more interesting too. Yes, and it's just based on narratives like, from ages past. Right. Because another brilliant point, first woman to be the chairman, whatever. Like, I'm here now. Let's, we can't keep celebrating things that are just like so backward.
Right.
Honestly, like you step in like with full force.
Absolutely.
Okay, what's your point? First woman. So, like in Nigeria, when like other countries have gotten ahead, of course, celebrate your wins, but let's really focus on, what's important and see the future as, see the future, have your vision, and just keep riding.
Wow. Right. I like that. What can we do for inclusivity, right? For like you talked about it, the things are not equal. Yeah. You have to intentionally maybe lower the bar to an extent.
Okay.
This is why, like, let's use the Lagos Marathon, for example.
Okay.
They know that the Kenyans are the kings of running the marathon, right?
Yes.
So they had to create another category and say first Nigerian to qualify. Because if you don't, this is inclusivity. If you don't,
you will never.
No Nigerian will win. Do you understand?
That's
so
hilarious.
If you understand that, like we said with this panel, you have to then say intentionally, we don't have a woman wearing hijab. We have to.
Yes.
Then you have to say, you have to create a category. That's what inclusion is all about. It's being intentional. This is why the Grammys have created the African category.
Yes.
It's about inclusivity. Because if we look at it, the hands are not equal. So you have to do that, That's why they'll say the first woman or the first girl or the teen. For example, if you say you're doing essay like this one that we did yesterday and say adult or teenagers, it's unfair for teenagers to compete with adults. So you have to create the teens category, the adult category. This is it. So we need to be able to meet people in a way that they're able to level up and be inspired to climb.
I love that. I'm still speaking about inclusion, inclusivity. Like we're being the head of sustainable development at Lafarge. How are you able to, in this conversation about sustainability, sustainable development, and I know you're very vocal on that on LinkedIn. I'm always like commenting on your posts. Like, how are you able to include the underserved, women in the underserved society? How do they even understand the language of sustainability in the first place?
So it's about creating, an equal opportunity for them. And it's really also understanding what their specific needs are. If I drill down to the very basics, women in underserved societies are grappling with quite a number of things.
Absolutely.
Period poverty, issues around mental health, economic situation in their families, and they are, solely responsible. It's really about creating those opportunities for them. So first is, we know that you are the backbone, so let's even first celebrate you as the backbone of the society, of this community where you operate in. Let's recognize the little, in quote, impact that you're making, and then let's see how we can work together to be able to scale you up to a certain level. The interesting thing about sustainability is it's a journey. It's not a destination. So you just never get to the end of it. It's something you need to keep doing and doing. So you get to B, you think, oh, let's move to C or D or E, and then you keep going. So it's really about, again, identifying the point where you're at, the baseline, and then have a benchmark. Where am I going to in the next 4 or 5 years? And then begin to ramp up gradually to help them meet the needs. We have quite a number of interventions, women empowerment interventions, dedicated women opportunities. So, for example, we do a lot around training female truck drivers. You understand? So you will think, oh, that's a male-dominated industry, but you see fantastic women, young ladies driving trucks.
That's brilliant.
And so it's even beyond, the things that we do in our society or in our communities. I always tell people, if you are a professional in this field and you cannot demonstrate within your own space the impact that you're making, then how do you even begin to translate it into bigger, environments, bigger scale and all of that? So first is really understanding. Personally, for example, I've mentored women across Africa, Kenya, Rwanda, quite a number of women. So in my own space, what am I doing? In your own space, what are you doing? How are you hand-holding younger girls? How are you teaching them? How are you supporting them? When you have, there's no perfect opportunity to teach. Sometimes even with parenting, it's just a small window. So you just notice a behavior in your child and you're like, what did that child just do now? And you just see that as an opportunity, to teach them. So even in the communities, are you telling them, oh, this is how to separate, for example, your capital from your profit? No matter how pressed you are, try as much as possible not to dip hands into your capital. Do you have and we have real traditional systems that are so helpful. So for example, the Esusu, doing a daily contribution of 15 naira, do you know how many families that has saved?
Absolutely.
So it goes on. There's no end to it. Like I said, it's a journey and we just need to keep, localizing. Bringing to our own local context and our realities and say what works best for this community or for this society.
Now, just speaking about what works best, Omar, I want you to sort of write off of what she had mentioned about hand-holding, the role of mentorship and, sponsorship. Do you think that things have gotten better, have changed, and even to what extent? Because a lot of times we hear, female mentorship is necessary if we are trying to close the gap. You made mention of, deals being struck at bars. When it comes to male rapport, it's sort of like different. So I want you to tell us from your perspective.
Yeah. Like I said, for me, most of the opportunities I've gotten have been given to me by women.
Wow.
They're either my peers, and sometimes we struggle. We always run for the big boss, the VIP, the VVIP. Don't look at your peers. Don't neglect that. Don't overlook them. There's a lot of value there, And so I would say, yes, mentorship is important. However, you don't want to be a pest, with it. Some people are extremely, really busy. Find the people who can support you from where they are. But also you can get people who are mentors that you just enjoy. Like you mentioned, a LinkedIn post. You can look at LinkedIn posts, follow them on social media and be inspired by some of the things that you can get, and also be a person of value. What we do, we always look for mentorship and forget what do you give? What are you bringing to the table? Even for these so-called mentors, they need support as well.
Absolutely.
So when you do that, then they're able to pour into you.
Organizations need to set the tone at the very top on, their stand on gender diversity and inclusion. Have frameworks, have policies that support it, demonstrate it, and that demonstration at the top is very critical because it sets the tone for the rest of the organization. In addition to that, celebrate what good or best in class looks like. So when a woman does well, do not sweep it under the table. Recognize that woman for her contribution.
If you want to be a part of us, first off, follow us across all social media pages at Lagos Talks 913 is our handle. And of course, kindly like, share, subscribe, and make sure you're a part of the Lagos Talks family.